Hello, and welcome to the Healthy is Happy podcast, the show that helps you get back to the basics of healthy and happy living. We're your hosts. I'm Nellie Ward.
And I'm Jennifer Maha. This podcast is the passion project of two friends who believe that healthy living is happy living. Always look for the good in others, never stop believing in the power of positivity, and think a little hard work goes a long way. To us, healthy living is simply a commitment to making daily choices that keep us on a healthy trajectory, both physically and mentally. We believe it's a lifelong journey, not a destination, and we like to be your co-host along this journey. Buckle up and stay hydrated. It's going to be an epic adventure. All right, everyone. Welcome to another fabulous episode of the Healthy Equals Happy podcast. Today it's just me and Nellie chit-chatting about some of our favorite things.
Hey, Maha.
Hey, Nellie. How are you?
I'm good.
Today we're going to be talking about treadmills, or dreadmills as some people call them, right? This is a very useful tool when you're trying to run or train or get fit or active. Some people have them at home. You can find them in most gyms. And Nellie is, I would say, an expert in when and how to use a treadmill in your fitness training plan.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to just talk about that. Nellie is a fan of treadmills. I am in the dreadmill category, having never loved to run on a treadmill, but also knowing that there's a definite benefit from running in a treadmill, both mentally and physically. So I think we're going to start at the top.
Well, let's say why we picked this topic for today.
Absolutely.
You know, it is the beginning of July in South Louisiana, and one of the benefits that we're going to talk about of treadmills is running in extreme conditions. It's good to, move indoors.
Have an option.
And so we decided that, with our extreme summers, this is something that's very relevant to talk about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in winter and in summer head indoors for running, right? Fall and spring are typically okay outside in most locations. People who live up north, obviously winter is very hard to run outside. In the summer in the south, it's very hard to run outside. And so unless you're running at 5, 6, 7 in the morning, if you're going to go run at any other time, it's very hot outside. So what are some of the benefits, Nellie, of running on a treadmill just in the summer alone?
One of the main benefits of running on a treadmill, especially for people who are in a certain training regimen, is that, you have your easy days, you have your tempo days, you have your hard days. When you're running in extreme conditions, kind of like the humidity and the heat that we have right now, your easy days really aren't even easy days because you're pushing so hard. So having the benefit of going indoors once or twice a week just gives you a little bit more of a break so that you can push harder on the hard days rather than being depleted, So your hard workouts are actually staying to be your hard workouts, and your easy workouts are easy. And you're hitting on the treadmill. One benefit of the treadmill is you have complete control. So if you need to be running an 8-minute pace, you can set the treadmill to 8-minute pace. And that isn't always the case with the heat and humidity, especially here right now.
It's definitely harder to hit those paces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
outside.
Just knowing that on the easy runs, you want to stick to your hard runs. Your hard runs should be hard, and you don't want to be robbing your hard runs of the work you're going to be put in by, using some of that hard work on easy days.
Yeah, because your body does work a lot harder in the heat, right?
Oh,
just to maintain pace, and it's working harder to try to cool yourself off. So that's actually a good point. I think a lot of people would think to do hard runs inside and easy runs outside so you can control your pace. But you're saying it might actually work well to do it the opposite way.
Yeah, well, and, there's always the benefit, too, of doing hard workouts on the treadmill. And that's, there are some people who, Maha is a prime example of people who do not like the treadmill and want to be on it at least as possible, right?
Yeah, like never.
So it's kind of depending on what your goals are and what your methods are. There are times when, you have a hard workout. I love hard workouts on a treadmill because I can't cheat it, So if it's mile repeats and, I need to be hitting a 650, I set the treadmill to 650 and you hold on.
Do it. Yeah. I will say that during a season of my life where I did a lot of training, I had a lot of hard runs that had specific paces in them. And at the time, I was not very good at running at certain paces or just being able to control my pace. Mentally, for whatever reason, it was very difficult for me to do that. And so I did a lot of those. I would do a warm-up on the road. And then when it got to that longer period where I had to do it, I think it was mile repeats, I would jog to the treadmill in my neighborhood in the fitness center and do all of my speed work there.
Yeah.
Because it was easier to control and like you're saying, I couldn't cheat the pace. Whereas if I'm outside, I'll think I'm going one pace and I'm either going too fast or too slow because I just cannot regulate that unless I'm staring at my watch the whole time. So I did find that to be a lot mentally easier to be able to control that.
And there's a lot of times,
inside.
if your plan prescribes, you need to be running a 650 pace, that could be, you're running the first half mile at a 30 and then you're running way too hard for the last half mile to try to even it out. But if you get on the treadmill and you just set it to what it needs to be, it's in control. So you're running the pace you need to be running on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm not saying that you should always be on the treadmill. Like you being outside, just, experiencing the impacts of, weather and conditions, and it builds your mental stamina too for race day. But there are a lot of times where, people are conditioned to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to run in the extreme conditions of whatever because I like to be outside. And that's great. I mean, if you want to be an outside runner and you don't like the treadmill, like that's fine. But there are a lot of benefits to taking some of those runs indoors. And, one is in particularly is, when the roads are unsafe, whether it's here, we have hurricanes. After a hurricane, when debris has fallen, all that, in the north, they get snowstorms when there's ice on the roads, anything like that. While you think it's hardcore to go out and run in those conditions, you're way more likely to get injured that way.
That's a good point.
So just being in, having a controlled environment where, like, okay, well, I'm going to run and it's going to be a hard run and I don't need to be focusing on every step because I might hit a tree limb or I might slip on ice. And when you do, that puts you out for a couple weeks in your training plan. So that's a perfect time to use the indoor facilities. When weather conditions are extreme, right now we could seriously injure ourselves from dehydration and overheat. In the winter, when it's below, 35 degrees, your muscles kind of start to cramp up more and you're much more likely to get muscle strain, anything like that. If you're training for a race that's in the winter, you do need to run in those conditions. But having some time to go indoors, make sure that your muscles aren't always in that cold impact is great too, so that you can recover faster. You can perform better on the hard days, all of that.
So what about just from, if you take away extreme conditions, right? Like, isn't there something to be said for just being able to mix up your workouts? 'Cause I know a lot of people get bored doing repetitive things. And I think when you're on a treadmill, you can do more interesting workouts that are pace controlled or time controlled or incline controlled to add some variety to your workout instead of just like continuously running.
Absolutely. The cool thing about a treadmill is you can create hills whenever you're ready. Especially in Baton Rouge here where we are, I go out and run the hills that I can find, or I'll go up to St. Francisville. But if you need a hill workout or you need an incline workout, there's nothing better than doing your 10-minute warm up and being like, okay, here's a 5% incline, rather than having to go find one, So it gives you a variety of things you can do. You can set intervals, you can do all of that kind of stuff. Run hard, recover, set hills when you're ready, all at the click of a button. Don't get me wrong, I prefer to be outside as much as I can, but knowing that, okay, I need to do an incline workout and there isn't any incline near me that I can access in the next 20 minutes. So, a treadmill is going to work. And it's going to help you get that work in. Because those types of workouts, especially if you're training for a race that isn't local, you can kind of mimic a race course, because if you have the elevation chart of let's say the Atlanta Marathon, where the hills are going to be, okay, when you get to that point, let's hit the incline up to what the biggest hill on that race course is going to be.
Yeah, and you can train yourself, and you can do hill intervals and things like that and work that into your training, whereas if you don't live near hills, it's really hard to replicate that. And hills do make a big impact in your running ability. And during a race, mentally and physically, I think.
One of my favorite things about a treadmill for race time in particular is getting on and practicing the hydration and nutrition plan. So if you're going to be taking in hydration every 2 miles, do one long run on the treadmill, and just so you have access to your nutrition and you're focusing on that, and that's what you're focusing on that run. The treadmill is doing the thinking for you, and you're just making sure that I'm getting the calories in. Okay, this plan worked for me. Now I'm going to take it outside. So it's a good way to practice any type of hydration or nutrition plan as well.
That's a great point, because that is hard to practice nutrition when you're doing long runs, because unless you do a lot of loops, which can be very boring. So a lot of people, I think, say that running on a treadmill is repetitious and it's kind of boring. That's one of the things I don't like about it. So can you speak to what would you do if someone says, if you gave an athlete a workout and said, look, I'd like you to do these workouts on the treadmill, here's why. And they said, well, it's really boring. Do I have to do it? What are some ways that you can sort of get over that sort of running in place feeling that happens sometimes when you're on a treadmill?
The treadmill it's a different kind of mental game. It's just like you build mentality outside, you actually gain some mental benefits from running on the treadmill, because, you're consistent where you are, and you're just doing what you need to do at that moment, So while it is could say be boring, you can turn on some music, watch a TV show. You can the mental gains that you're gaining from being on a treadmill. You're kind of being able to be comfortable in a setting that you're in, even though it might not be the setting you want to be in. You just have to put your head down and do the work. So you kind of get this whole benefit gain from being on a treadmill. That being said, I'm not suggesting that you do all of your runs, or not even 50% of your runs on a treadmill.
But just knowing it's a tool in the toolbox.
Just knowing it's a tool that you can use, and sometimes it has, the benefits that it has benefits that you would need on a hard, okay, it's thundering and lightning outside. Instead of skipping your run, okay, well, I'm going to go do the treadmill.
Yeah. You can still get it in.
And then, I suggest for hard workouts, when people are struggling to hit paces and things like that, it's actually kind of motivating, because it's like, okay, well, if you just set it and do it, and then you did it, there's no more I can't do it. It's okay, just set it and try. Yeah. And if you have to, the worst thing you do is you press the stop button or the pause button.
Or you slow your pace
down.
And I've noticed that, like I said, I do a lot of my running outside, and this time of the year it's very hot outside. So I do what I call shade running. So I just find all the shade spots and only try to run on the shaded areas, which means you're doing a lot of loops. And in doing that, I have noticed it is significantly harder when I'm running out in the actual sun to maintain a pace, which I think it kind of gets in your head where you're well, I'm so slow, I can't run faster at a decent pace anymore. And I think maybe another benefit is that idea that when you're inside in a more controlled environment, you can hit the paces you're used to hitting. Yeah. So you realize I'm not out of shape. I'm not getting slower.
I'm running in extreme
the
conditions.
External conditions of outside right now are impacting my ability to be a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, and I'm the exact opposite. I am the athlete that I love running in the summer outside. I cannot stand running in the winter outside. And, there's something to be said for not, breaking yourself down. I'm not going to run outside every day during the winter just because I'm a runner and that's what I should be doing. It's like, okay, I need a mental break. I need to go get on the treadmill and not have to think about it. I need to just set it. I need to be comfortable. Granted, when you're training for a race, that's always in particular, and you have to talk to your coach about it. But, there is a lot to be said for those easy runs, just not trying to be extreme and hardcore and wear yourself down. Just do what makes you happy, And for some people, it's me in the winter. That's me not going to start a run in 20-degree weather. That's me hopping on a treadmill.
It's a lot easier. So talk about the incline situation, because I know that you're not supposed to run on a treadmill with no incline because it gives you shin splints. Is that correct?
Yeah. So no incline is good for recovery. If you're just a runner who is running, I always set the incline to 1. That has more of a similar stimulation to a road. When you're setting it to there are very few times as a runner that you're running on a 0% completely flat grade, and it actually causes you sometimes to put your foot down too much forward, which does cause shin splints in people. So always set your incline to whatever type of treadmill you have access to 0.5 or 1, and to be able to more stimulate actually running on the road. But another benefit of a treadmill is for people who are recovering from an injury. Running on a treadmill is a lot less impact than concrete or a road, anything like that. So it's a good way to kind of slowly get back into your outdoor running routine.
Yeah, I know when I was injured twice, I had to do physical therapy, and both times my initial runs back were on a treadmill in a controlled environment. One with a doctor to kind of make sure I was okay, and the second I did it on my own, again, to make sure I'm not worried about tripping or falling or re-injuring myself because I'm running on a flat surface in a controlled environment at a very controlled pace.
Yeah, and
until I got my mental confidence back that I am over this injury and I can keep going.
Yeah, and granted, the beauty of running, and what we love the most about running, is you can put on a pair of tennis shoes and walk out the door.
Yeah.
A treadmill is a luxury item, so, anything can be done without a treadmill. It's just kind of a nice to have.
Yeah. It's a good way to mix up your workouts, add in some speed work, right? Avoid extreme weather conditions.
It's also great for people with young kids. I know one of my friends right now, whenever her kid goes down for a nap, she's hitting the treadmill because she can't leave her kid sleeping in the house, but having that access to, okay, I can get a workout in while she's taking an hour nap.
Yeah.
Has been, hugely beneficial for her schedule and just getting it in. And I know tons of people who get home late at night, and as a single female, I don't want to go run, in Baton Rouge at night, but if just being able to walk to the gym and hop on a treadmill, you feel safe too.
Yeah, you can do it any time of the day or night. And I know a lot of people who enjoy running on treadmills also do interesting workouts on treadmills where they do some strength on the floor and then they hop on the treadmill and do some speed work. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about the benefits of doing that? And
Yeah,
like,
so-
just if this is something that you're interested in mixing into your workout, maybe these are some tips you could do.
Yeah, so that's considered a treadmill boot camp. So that's, doing a interval run on the treadmill, hopping off, doing, 10, 15 minutes of strength, hopping back on the treadmill. That way you're doing cardiovascular fitness, you're doing strength, so you're gaining some muscle fitness, but it also is, it's beneficial to your heart health because you're getting your heart rate up and then you're dropping it back down. And practicing that up and down of getting your heart rate up and down so many times is so great for your heart rate because it'll help you have a lower heart rate while you're running and while you're exercising. So it's kind of training that part of your body as well. So it's fun for people who are runners and don't like doing strength. It kind of makes strength seem like part of running, you know? So you're hopping on, hopping off, hopping on, hopping off. It's fun. I mean, I know I do them two days a week and the 45 minutes fly by because it's like, oh, well, I mean, I was only running for 25 of those minutes, but I also got strength in.
It probably works the opposite way too. For people who like strength but aren't necessarily love running, this could be a way to sort of get some cardio in without thinking, oh, I have to go run for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it breaks it up into like 7-10-minute intervals. And you can reach out to us for workouts for the treadmill. You can Google them. There's tons of access, but just making it fun and creative, like doing your first run as I'm running this whole 10 minutes and then I'm getting off. Okay, the next one I'm going to do hills. Okay, the next one I'm doing sprints.
Yeah.
And then doing like legs and arms in between and core. It's like you get a whole total body workout
in a short period
fun.
of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So if someone, we've talked a lot about people who are maybe training and doing hard, easy, moderate kind of runs within the context of a training for a running event. If you are going to give some advice to someone who's getting started and says, okay, well, I'd like to start walking or jogging, would you suggest treadmill? Would you suggest the road first? Would you say just try both and see which one maybe fits?
I would say do whatever you feel comfortable with. Some people are very intimidated by the fact of going outside and having people watch them run or anything like that. So whatever you're comfortable with. Some people can't stand a treadmill. So go outside, like running is running and you're going to get the mental benefits and the health benefits from both. You're not cheating yourself by doing one or the other. The mental side of running is the endorphins you release, which really helps with depression and anxiety. So if someone who is anxious about being outside and being looked at running, start on the treadmill and you're going to start to realize, okay, I can do this. I'll go outside. Someone who is maybe the opposite and wants to be outside where they know no one at their gym is going to see them, start there and then move inside or just try both and find what you like. The biggest thing to do with running is just doing what you like. Because if you do something you don't like, you're not going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you're not going to want to do it much longer. So do you have a favorite treadmill workout where you say, if I'm going to go to the workout today and I'm going to do like my favorite workout that I would do on treadmill, like do you have like one or two of those that you're like, these are my go-to, like I just love
mile repeats.
And they make me happy.
Mile repeats make me so happy on the treadmill because you can't cheat it, and it's like the hardest workout. I love it. I always know like, okay, if I need to hit, I struggle with sometimes I go out. I struggle with a lot of times going too hard, okay, so I have 4 mile repeats and they need to be at this certain pace. The first 2, I go out way too hard and then I'm trying to keep up the last 2. So I love doing mile repeats on the treadmill because I know that if I need to be hitting a certain number each time, I'm going to do that number.
Consistently and not have spikes, which is better training mentally and physically.
So that's probably my favorite. And then I also love just one of my, weekly, especially in the summers when it is so hot, I like to just hop on the treadmill for my 40-minute easy run sometimes and watch a show just as a mental break, not because it kind of is exhausting knowing that you're about to go outside and die in the heat, and not having to wake up at 5 a.m. to do it. I'm like, hey, I'll go to the treadmill after work. It fits in my schedule.
Better that way.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
What about you?
I don't know. Like I said at the beginning, I've never loved doing treadmill workouts.
And you don't have to love it. You don't have to do it.
It gives me anxiety, I think, sometimes running on a treadmill. But if I'm going to run on a treadmill, I typically have to do speed intervals. Right? Where I'm running fast for a short period of time and then slow for a short period of time because I don't do well. If I were just to say, go run for an hour, I don't know that I would make it through that. I start to sweat a little bit. But when I do have a workout, especially if it were in the summer, if I were going to be training for something right now that said I had to hit a certain pace, I would have to do it on the treadmill. So I think anything that has short intervals on treadmills breaks it up mentally for me. And I think that's actually, I enjoy that. And
so what is the longest you've done on a treadmill?
well, there were days, and I might not get all the numbers right because this was back in 2015. So if we're being honest, I don't think I've run on a treadmill since like 2017.
Yeah.
So I have the opposite of a treadmill streak. I have an anti-treadmill streak going where I haven't run on a treadmill in many, many years. But during that time, I was training for Ironman Chattanooga. And a lot of that training was in the summer. So a lot of those long runs were in the summer. So my long runs were never go out and run 16 miles or 12 miles. It was always a workout. And so it was like do 4 slow, do a 4 mile slow recovery. But in the middle, I had blocks of intervals. And so I would leave my house and I had like a 4 mile like slow course I would run to the treadmill. And then it was like, 5 minutes on, 3 minutes off or something like that. And so I think I probably ran 12 miles one day on the treadmill.
Nice.
And it wasn't as mentally hard as I thought it would be, but it was because I was doing it in those little intervals. And after like 3 or 4 intervals, I would give myself a mental 1 minute break off the treadmill to drink water and get back on. And I was surprised I was able to do that for so long, but it was because it was broken up into like little short segments of hard, easy. And then I knew at the end I was going to jog home back on the road again, which was a nice break. But this was August. So like running 12 miles outside, trying to do that outside, I don't think I would have been able to. And I will say that running on the treadmill helped me better understand how to pace myself outside because I did not grow up as someone who ran cross country or track. I tried those sports, but I gravitated to different sports. So I had no real ability to understand how fast or slow I was going and then to make myself go faster or slower. My body just always wanted to go at the same pace. But running on the treadmill, I think, helped me understand, like, oh, this is what a slow run feels like. This is what a moderate pace feels like. This is what really hard feels like. And this is like, because I would used to think that I was going hard, but I didn't know that I wasn't until I did it on a treadmill. And it was like, I can go faster than that. So it helped me kind of understand how to pace myself and hit certain targets. And same thing with kids. Like when my kids were younger, it was easy to bring them with me to the gym and let them like watch a movie on an iPad while I got a workout in. Yeah. It was just easier than trying to do it some other way.
Yeah. There was one hurricane season when I was training for a marathon. It was an October marathon, and I had a 22-mile run, and a hurricane had just come through. And so I got on the treadmill to run my 22 miles, and I did it. And then I got to 22 miles, and I was like, I'm this close to a marathon. I'm running a marathon on the treadmill. So I ran a marathon on the treadmill. Oh, my God.
That's kudos.
It was, that's the longest. It was not that great. But let's close out the saying, treadmills aren't for everybody, and I'm not saying to go out and do all of your runs on the treadmill. It's a great backup option.
It's a great tool in the tool chest, and I think a lot of people, certain workouts you do, they get monotonous, right? So knowing like when to use a treadmill, some different options on how to use it. Because I know if years ago if someone said you should run on a treadmill, I would just go run the exact same pace on a treadmill, and I would hate it. But it wasn't until I had to do workouts that it got a little easier mentally, and so it's just a tool, kind of like in your tool chest of exercises. To avoid bad weather and extreme conditions, but also make you a better runner, right? Because you are able to control conditions and push your pace faster at certain times of the year where you really can't do that outside.
Yeah, and those weekends when you are running alone, some people, I know I love running with groups and all that, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so sometimes running alone is like, okay, well, I'm going to run on the treadmill and I'm going to jam out or watch a movie or do something. But running outside with friends is always my top
priority.
Yeah. All right. Well, and I don't really have a treadmill joke, but I do have a treadmill story.
Yep. Let's hear it. This is a sad day though that we don't have a joke.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment for that.
Well, I met my ex-boyfriend on the treadmill, but then we broke up because it wasn't going anywhere.
That's a good.
So it was a joke. I just didn't want to I didn't know how to ask it.
Yeah, can we please get some drums in here for that?
That's good.
That's really good. All right, guys, that wraps up another episode of the Healthy is Happy podcast where we're talking about treadmills. If you have any questions or any information you'd like to find out about particular workouts on treadmills, you guys know where to find us on social and email. And stay tuned for more great episodes. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Healthy is Happy podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at Basic Living BR, Instagram for all things healthy and happy living at Basic Living BR. And for more nutrition focused content, follow us on Instagram at _basic_eats.